Good evening, it's 8 o'clock. Our top headlines tonight. It's the end game of the pandemic in India, says the health minister. Don't let politics interfere with health. But over India, it's all in our state elections. It's campaigns first, COVID cautions, forget it. So the worry, we can see Maharashtra, Punjab showing biggest percentage rises. Other states up as well, though in the vast parts of India, cases are down. The Ambani bomb scare and mysterious death. The centre takes over the probe into this. A probe is ordered by the Central NIA, the National Investigative Agency. It's taken away from Maharashtra State's anti-terror squad. Something fishy, says CM Thackeray, on why the centre stepped in. But there is a terror angle to this, says the BJP. Rising fuel, LPG prices at the opposition versus government, whether it's Mamta on a Padyatra in Kolkata or the opposition in Parliament. But the government so far seems to have hit pause on the hikes before state elections. On Women's Day, women farmers gather at protest sites at the Delhi borders, say they won't leave till their demands are met. Actress Tapsee Pannu speaks out on Women's Day on the recent raids against her. She says, I can't hide anything. If I've done anything wrong, it will come out. She also says, however, my family and I would like to know who's giving me 5 crores. And NDTV's world exclusive with world #1 tennis player Djokovic. He talks about, well, Nadal and Federer, saying they're special in my career and life, and also his wave for fans in India.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so much for having me.
Our lead story tonight, though overall India is doing well, cases climbing up as again in the last 24 hours, cases were over 18,000. That's for the third day running. India reported over 18,000 COVID cases. That's mainly because of the spike in Maharashtra, but the centre has warned that there are 8 states where the positivity rate is higher than the national average. This, as the health minister said today, that we are in the end game of the pandemic in India. Politics shouldn't interfere in the war against COVID. But as we can see that with campaigns for state elections on across India and many parts otherwise, all COVID cautions seem to have been forgotten.
Crowds, campaigns, but few COVID precautions, even though active cases have shot up by almost 52,000 or 38% just in the last 20 days. Officials have blamed COVID inappropriate behavior, yet today the health minister announced India was seeing the end game of the COVID pandemic.
COVID is already on its way out. The only thing that we need to ensure is that number one, to keep politics out of the war against COVID. I think that's the most important thing.
The state of Kerala, the people are a bit lax, and the political parties are continuing with their campaign program where the COVID pandemic protocol are not being strictly adhered to.
Even though Delhi is on a central watch list of states with an upsurge, the State Health Minister Satyendra Jain also says the pandemic phase is ending and the city is entering the endemic phase.
From tomorrow, both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha will resume according to the normal schedule that was there before COVID. Both the houses will meet between 11 AM and 6 PM and the MPs will sit in their own houses.
This comes even as India reported more than 18,000 daily cases for the third consecutive day, with 8 big states continuing to report a spike in daily cases. India's top medical body, the Indian Medical Association, today released a statement saying it is painful to note the discussion on endemic versus pandemic status of diseases are echoing in the political corridors. However, it ought to be substantiated by scientific evidence by the World Health Organization or ICMR only.
As public health expert, we are really worried looking at the data from last 3-4 weeks where there is a clear uptrend in the country. The cases have gone up from 10,000 to about 18,000 per day. We have to be very cautious.
India currently has 1.8 lakh active cases and many of its states are struggling to control the surge. Public figures will have to be more careful about their messaging to ensure that India's battle with COVID does not become tougher. In New Delhi with camera person Xavier Thomas, this is Sukirti Dwivedi for NDTV.
Well, let's just look at how our vaccinations are doing. Well, many parts of India, Sundays are off. So in the last 24 hours, there were 66,666 vaccinations. Over 36 lakh people have been vaccinated so far of the general population. Parmeshwar explains the latest on India's vaccinations.
Let's dive right into the vaccination data numbers. Now, this data shows 1 week of vaccination being open to section of the general public. If you notice, we have a fantastic start, quickly ramping up. However, we see a sharp drop here. Now, this is a bit of a concern considering we have 14,24,640 vaccinations happening every day here. And then suddenly we hit a Sunday with close to 67,000 vaccinations happening every day. Now, this is a bit of a concern, but not unusual, because on 28th of February, we again saw a sharp drop in vaccinations, which is why we're asking, can Vaccinate India afford to take Sundays off? Moving on to the general cases in India and looking at the upsurge, there are certain states which are reporting an exponential upsurge. If you notice here, we have the map for you. If I can just show you, Punjab has a 355% rise in cases. Now, even though they reported 531 cases in the last 24 hours, a 355% rise in cases in the state, followed shortly by Maharashtra at 266%. Again, concerning number, 7,740 cases in the last 24 hours. We also have Haryana, again, neighbouring state with Punjab, a 226% rise in cases. Delhi reporting a 93% rise in cases. Again, exponential number. We have Madhya Pradesh at 334 cases in the last 24 hours, which is up by 125%. We have Karnataka, I beg your pardon, we have Karnataka here with a 20% rise in cases, so not as bad as Maharashtra and Punjab. And we end with Tamil Nadu with 466 cases in the last 24 hours, which marks a 4% rise. Now, following a fairly sluggish start, India's COVID-19 vaccination drive, again, one of the world's biggest, jumped nearly fourfold after the country opened it up to more people and got a crucial public endorsement from the inoculation of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Now, just to recap all this, Maharashtra, Kerala, Punjab, Karnataka, Gujarat and Tamil Nadu are the 6 states that are cumulatively accounting for 86.25% of the new coronavirus cases reported in the past 24 hours. Now, Maharashtra has seen the sharpest rise in cases. The rate is almost 300%, but it is Punjab which has the highest rate at over a staggering 350%.
Parmeshwar, thanks for that update. Meanwhile, moving to the other big political story, the centre has stepped in and now the top anti-terror investigation agency in India, the NIA, has been given charge of the probe into the Ambani bomb scare controversy. However, the Chief Minister of Maharashtra, Uddhav Thackeray, has said there's something fishy. Why has the centre taken over this probe from Maharashtra? The BJP, meanwhile, says that with explosives and a mystery death, it's clear there is a terror angle.
त्या व्यतिरिक्त एनआयएकडे हा तपास घेण्याचा डाव केंद्राचा असेल म्हणजे नक्कीच ह्याच्यामध्ये काहीतरी त्यांचं काळबेर आहे.
उसका इन्वेस्टिगेशन हमारी एटीएस कर रही थी, लेकिन आज केंद्र शासन की जो संस्था है एनआईए, उन्होंने वो तपास अपनी तरफ लिया है.
On February 25th, a stolen SUV car with explosives and a threatening letter against Mukesh and Neeta Ambani was found outside the residence of Mukesh Ambani, one of the world's richest men. But last week, under mysterious circumstances, the owner of the car was found dead. Initially, an accidental death report was filed which the ATS converted into a murder case. The post-mortem was not conclusive and reserved opinion until a chemical analysis is done.
All these questions are a matter of investigation, but it also raises question on the local authorities as to why they were not able to make any headway in this case in the past 2 weeks. But now with the NIA being roped in, one can only hope for a fair and thorough investigation. In Mumbai with camera person Sanjay Mandal and Rajendra Dayalkar, this is Purva Chitnis for NDTV.
Well, in other news, the big political focus in Parliament today was the opposition speaking out on fuel and LPG price hikes. This, however, as the government appears to have hit pause on fuel price hikes, perhaps because of the state elections. But in the last 2 days, petrol and diesel prices haven't changed, even though the price of the Indian basket of crude oil has shot up about $6. Also today, politically, Mamata Banerjee's big Padyatra in Kolkata of only women to protest against rising cooking gas and fuel prices.
Now the petrol prices nearly 100 rupees per litre and the diesel prices are more than 80 rupees and LPG also increased. Sir, 21 lakh crores have been collected by putting excess duty.
Okay, Kargeji.
And all these things.
I have allowed you.
Because of this, the entire country is suffering. This is very important issue.
Because it's an important issue, I have allowed you to mention it, though you know the rules position. 267 is at the discretion of the chair. I have gone through it. There are enough opportunities, including appropriation bill and other occasions, to discuss it. But still, because you are a senior and also leader of the opposition, you have given a notice. I have just allowed you to mention the subject. You have rightly mentioned the subject and we leave it there and we move on.
It is very important.
Mamata Banerjee on the streets for the second day in a row protesting against spiraling cooking gas prices and also attacking the Prime Minister for trying to promote the COVID vaccine as the Modi vaccine. Trinamool had objected to the PM's face on COVID vaccination certificates. The Election Commission has said the mugshot must go from certificates in poll-bound states. As Mamata Banerjee spoke, however, 4 of her MLAs crossed over to the BJP. They are outgoing MLAs who were not nominated by Trinamool this time. MLAs that Trinamool says our party rejects. But BJP has welcomed them all, including a Trinamool candidate who was dropped this morning due to ill health, Trinamool said. But she was well enough to arrive at the BJP office and sign up.
সেটা ওনাকেই জিজ্ঞেস করুন কেন উনি আমাকে ক্যান্ডিডেট লিস্ট থেকে বাদ দিলেন সেটা ওনাকে জিজ্ঞেস করুন আজ এবার আমি জিততামই দাঁড়ালে আমি কিন্তু ছেড়ে আসিনি আমার দল আমাকে
যারা 25 বছর 30 বছর 40 বছর ওনার সঙ্গে রাজনীতি করেছেন তারা আজকে মনে করছেন যে অপমানিত হয়েছেন তারা পার্টি ছেড়ে দিচ্ছেন তাই তাদের জায়গায় সেলিব্রিটিদের নিয়ে আসা হচ্ছে জেতার জন্য এর চেয়ে আর নৈতিক পরাজয় কি হবে
This is the biggest one-day exit of MLAs from the Trinamool to the BJP since December 2020, when about a dozen or so had left. The Trinamool says they are rejects. The BJP unembarrassed about taking them into their fold and chipping away at their rival for the Bengal Assembly. In Kolkata with G.D. Shankar, Monideepa Banerjee, NDTV.
Meanwhile, moving to Karnataka, where the budget was presented today, but it was all about politics. The Congress walked out, they said, because of allegations of corruption and also because of an alleged sex CD, which they claimed involved top ministers. The opposition is asking why 6 ministers have got an injunction from the courts against defamatory content.
As Karnataka Chief Minister B.S. Yediyurappa was all set to present the state's budget in the Assembly, the opposition Congress staged a walkout. The party says the BJP state government has lost the moral right to rule. After the resignation of Ramesh Jarkiholi, following charges later withdrawn of a sex-for-job demand, 6 other BJP ministers had obtained an injunction over the weekend against the publication of defamatory news against them. Former Chief Minister Siddaramaiah of the Congress took a swipe against those he referred to as Bombay Boys. Those former coalition MLAs who moved into a Mumbai hotel in 2019 and later crossed to the BJP, bringing down the Congress-JDS coalition government.
After Ramesh Jarkiholi's episode, 6 ministers of Yediyurappa's government, and they've also gone to the Bombay, called Bombay Boys, called Bombay Boys. They are under the fear that the CDs which are there may be telecasted.
The state government is defending the move by its ministers.
Somebody might, can misuse. See, if anybody has got any issue, they are free to come and lodge complaint, do things, not putting everything before they are being, proved guilty, creating all kind of news they didn't want it to happen. The minister, the government, the party, all of us have taken a moral stand, and he has resigned.
The Congress walking out of the Karnataka Assembly on the day the state budget was being presented. The ruling BJP finds itself in an embarrassing position, and the opposition Congress is determined to make the most of it. With JM Kumar, Maya Sharma in Bengaluru for NDTV.
Well, a quick look at other news. The Chief Justice of India said there was misreporting over his controversial comments asking a rape accused on whether he would marry her, the girl again who had actually filed these charges of rape. However, the Chief Justice today clarified that the Supreme Court has always had highest respect for womanhood, and he did not ask the rape accused to marry. We asked, are you going to marry? The Solicitor General also said the CJI's question was in a different context and it was twisted. Well, in other news, our special focus on Women's Day today. More women protesters and women farmers arrived from Punjab and Haryana to mark International Women's Day at protest sites on the Delhi, Haryana and Punjab border.
जब आंधी उठती है तो दिन रात बदल देती है, जब आंधी उठती है तो दिन रात बदल देती है, जब गरजती है नारी शक्तियां तो इतिहास बदल देती हैं.
Pooja, a 45-year-old farmer from Haryana, made her way to the protest a day earlier on a tractor. Also a poet by passion, recited few lines passionately about women. On Women's Day, women protesters, aware of the punch they bring to the farm law protest, now on their 102nd day. 33-year-old Suman Hudda from Hisar in Haryana is one such volunteer who has been at the protest site since day one.
वैसे तो हमें हर रोज सम्मान मिलता है, हर रोज हमारा दिन है, पर आज स्पेशल हमें मान सम्मान देने के लिए एक दिन हमें सौंपा गया है. तो आप महिलाओं की तादाद देख सकते हैं, आप सैकड़ों की संख्या में, हजारों की संख्या में यहाँ पे महिलाएं देख रहे हैं.
ठंड की रातों में दिसंबर में लोहड़ी हमने यही मनाई, टेंट के नीचे हमने सोना सीख लिया है, हमने पानी की बुशारों को सहना सीख लिया है, आंदोलन को जारी रखने हमने ये भी सीख लिया है.
For months now, women have marked their presence at the farmers' protest, but on International Women's Day, the show of strength the Samyukt Kisan Morcha had said would be at least 15,000 women expected to gather.
Farmers have been protesting at the Delhi borders for over 100 days now. Women have been an integral part of this movement. Some who have been here since day one say that they see no reason to return and that they will continue fighting for their rights and their demands. With camera Sushil Rathi at Tikki border, Shanakshi Chakravarti for NDTV.
Amazing determination and commitment. No wonder Time magazine had them on their cover last week in the international edition. But meanwhile, also on Women's Day, actor Tapsee Pannu, raided last week by the income tax officials, broke her silence on her movies, film career and why she had nothing to fear.
आपको लगता है आपके साथ ऐसा हुआ क्योंकि you speak your mind?
There is no way to find out, Rohit, because these are really highly confidential procedures that happen. It's not like I'm going to ask them and they'll be like ha ya na. So that's not going to happen. So there can be only things that we can think in our head. They get any lead, that's why they've come. Was it pressurized? We can only think of options in our head, but there is no way to confirm this. So the only thing you can do is just follow the procedure. There is no other option.
Right. But your viewers who are watching, do you want to tell them that you are a law-abiding citizen, you've paid your taxes and you had nothing to worry. That's why you were not worried.
I have answered all those questions, and if there is anything wrong, it will come out. It's not like, I can hide anything if I've done anything wrong. So I have cooperated in all possible ways, and if there is something that they have found which is wrong, I will be more than happy to serve the punishment that comes with it. So this is the law of the land. You have decided to be the citizen of this country, and you will follow that. There is nothing wrong in that.
Right. And Tapsee being Tapsee did get, when she got access to Twitter, she did reply to the finance minister also, because also there were a lot of things that were said कि रेट पहले भी हुए हैं इन लोगों के ऊपर और कुछ 5 करोड़ की receipt भी है. You did make sure that you clear that.
So the thing is, you know, as they say, the stories only presented from one side. So when the notice comes out that there was a 5 crore receipt found of an actress, leading actress, and there are 22 locations that are raided. It's the media who put the dots together and said, तो तापसी के घर में ही 5 करोड़ की मिली है. मतलब बाकी 22 लोकेशन, बाकी 21 लोकेशंस जो थी, उसके अंदर कोई एक्ट्रेस नहीं थी. How do you know that?
Right.
So it's the media who tries to put the dots together. Did the department put out my name saying it's my house?
No, they said leading actress.
Yeah. So, and are you sure there was no other leading actress in the list?
You're right.
So yeah. So it's the media who wanted to put the dots together and get my name out and trash it in whatever the way they would want to, and they did that. But fortunately or unfortunately, me and my parents and my sister are wondering, who is giving me 5 crores? I am also thinking, who is giving me 5 crores? If someone is giving me 5 crores, I want to know it because I want those 5 crores. So that's why that tweet came out after that. There's stories of me owning bungalows in Paris. There's story of me having 5 crores. I don't know where are those 5 crores. And then is our finance minister who says that same people had been raided in 2013, where I am finding it hard to understand when did that happen with me in 2013. You know, it was very nice of her to mention the fact that don't sensationalize it. It is a procedure that happens very often, which is very right. It's very true. There's no need to sensationalize it. But when she mentioned that the same set of people were raided before is when I was like, no, that's not right. So that I said,
Also on NDTV today is a world exclusive. The world #1 tennis player Djokovic spoke exclusively to NDTV's Srinivasan Jain. Here are the highlights.
What would you say to young players coming up in a country like India, which in some ways, like Serbia, we don't have a great tennis tradition. The facilities aren't that good. It is still an elite sport. What would your advice be to them?
Well, first of all, I think the essential ingredient is passion and love. You know, I still feel that excitement of holding a tennis racket that I felt when I was 4 or 5 years old. So I feel that you know, kids need to fall in love with this sport. They need to fall in love with spending time on the court. It needs to bring joy to them, because this is the most essential emotion that the kid needs to feel. Because if the child doesn't enjoy spending time on the tennis court or playing other sports or anything really, then it becomes a burden. It becomes the hurdle, and it shouldn't be that way. So, well, what I can say personally is that I'm going to use the opportunity to come to India very soon, hopefully in the near future, and hopefully I can transfer and convey some of that passion to youth in India, and you know, maybe with Leander Pace and you know other Indian tennis legends, we can start something that could be a nice for Indian tennis.